Okay, I have video footage of this. I will share it at the end. Nobody thinks it's real. Like, it seems like it's doctored footage, but it's not. I swear on my life. Basically, both my sister and my old roommate used to work at this, like, music school daycare center for kids in the Upper East Side. The music classes would happen upstairs, but downstairs in the basement, there was this, like, daycare situation, and you had to work down there. And they both hated being down there. And I'd been down there a few times too. It is really scary. Like, you know when you just get a feeling about a place? Like, that is the basement. It was horrible. They would both, like, hear voices when their co-teacher hadn't showed up yet. Or, like, the cleaner would go downstairs and all the toys would be arranged in, like, a circle. And she'd be, like, in tears being like, are you guys playing a prank on me? I seriously, like, I don't feel safe here. The kids would all say really creepy shit. Like, they'd say, like, there's a really, like, mean guy in, like, the tunnel, like, a little play tunnel thing, or, like, there's, like, someone mean over in, like, the dark corner of the basement. So when COVID hit, obviously no one was going into the daycare. It essentially shut down. But the owners installed cameras just in case, like, anything happened while they weren't there, and it picked up the most insane shit ever. It's 1.5 minutes long, so here you go.
Okay, so this is my scary story. I shared my dad's, but this is one that happened to me, and I just feel like nobody, like, ever believes me, but it's okay because I know that it happened. Like, I was there. Okay, so my house got broken into when I was in 6th grade by an actual person while we were all sleeping in the house. So, like, I have a lot of fear around home invasions. So when I was older, like 16 or 17, my parents had decided to go out of town for the weekend, my whole family, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay and hang out with my friends. So my parents were like, you're responsible. We have 2 big dogs. They felt safe leaving me home alone. So that day I had spent the entire day at my friend's house. She had dogs, so I brought my dogs over there. It was a play date. We hung out there till like 11 o'clock at night. I decided it's time to go home because my dogs couldn't spend the night there. So I was like, we're gonna go back to the house. I get to the house and I realized I had left the door unlocked, which one is very unlike me, but it just set me so much on edge. I was like, oh, like that's ew. So I go through the entire house and make sure no one's there. I have my dogs sniff every room and corner, and like they would alert me if someone was there. So I felt confident that no one was in the house. Because of what happened when I was in 6th grade, I have a very exact routine when I'm going to sleep. I close every single door, turn off every light, lock every window, lock every door. I make sure I triple check. And so I'm going around, I'm turning off all the lights, closing all the doors. I get to my parents' room and I think, oh, it would be so freaky if I like woke up and this was on. And then immediately I'm like, no, don't think that. Like, intrusive thought, right? So I go to bed, I lock myself in my room because obviously like you're a 16-year-old, you're a little freaked out being home alone. And then I wake up at 3 a.m. I know because I checked my phone, to my dog barking like crazy. And I wasn't immediately freaked out because she does that sometimes when she has to go to the restroom or something. So I'm like, oh, she has to go out. I get up and I open my door. My parents' room is directly across from mine. My room, my parents' room. I open my door and my parents' bedroom, it like gives me chills, is wide open and the light is all the way on. And they had a specific sliding light, and if you have one of those, you know you have to slide it, but you can also click it on and off on the bottom. So I had clicked it off and slid it down. So someone had opened the door, clicked on the light, and slid it all the way up. My first thought isn't ghost, it's home invasion, right? So I close the door, I start having a panic attack, like actually freaking out. I text my mom because I'm too scared to call, and mom instincts kick in or something, and she wakes up. She calls the police. The police come. They don't do anything, actually. They don't check the house at all. And so I call my mom back, and we go through the entire house together. I let the dogs out. They don't react to anything. All the doors are locked, all the windows are locked, everything's normal. And so I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do, I guess. So I get the dogs, I put them in my room, I lock the door, I go to sleep, everything's fine. The next morning, my dad calls me. He says, I didn't want to scare you last night because I knew you were already freaked out, but like some really weird stuff has been happening this entire week, because he was home by himself that entire week before. And he said that things were falling off the walls, he kept hearing voices in other rooms, and that house had some weird stuff happen there before, like it had weird things happen. And so I was convinced that I had just experienced a haunting in some capacity. So my dad is very Catholic, and he gets holy water and he blesses every single doorway when he gets home, and nothing scary happened after that, but it was really terrifying for me.
Okay, I'm going to try to do my best to talk about this quickly and also without getting too much of an adrenaline dump and shaking, because it's still to this day when I remember this story freaks me the hell out. I grew up in a very haunted house in Colorado. We found out it wasn't the house over time, it was the land. We actually did have a medium come and cleanse the house after my mom's first bout of cancer. Tons of stuff happened. I could literally tell story after story after story. We lived there for 30 years. It was bad enough that my dad actually did ask the realtor when he sold the house if he had to disclose to the new occupants that it was haunted. We found out over time, talking to other neighbors, they all had the same issues. It was the land this subdivision was built on. So the scariest thing, it was actually like a succession of things, but when we first moved in there, it was a 3-story walkout basement house built on a hillside, and I had the basement room as the oldest kid. And there was one night where I woke up, it sounded like people were banging on the doors. There was 2 entrances to my room. It sounded like they were running back and forth and trying to get in. I actually heard things in the playroom down there, like tumbling out of the cabinets and going all over the place. And when I finally worked up the courage, I turned on all the lights in my room, and one of the doors was a quick right and then left up the stairs to get up to the main level, turn around, and then go up again up to where my parents were sleeping. I was 12 or 13 at the time when this happened. I think it was about 13. So I hear all this happening. I suck up my strength to like go run, and as I start to open the door, somebody, wham, like hits the door, which made me fly back to my bed, pull up the covers. I didn't have a phone down there. Again, this is long before cell phones, so I had no phone, no way to call 911 or say somebody's broken into the house, nothing. So instead I took my boombox stereo and I turned the music up full volume. I was 2 floors below my parents' bedroom, and I thought, surely if I turn the music up all the way, they'll know something is wrong. It's about 3 in the morning. My dad did wake up, felt like something was wrong, came downstairs, saw that all my lights were on and that my music was blaring, and couldn't wake me up. The playroom, not destroyed. There was nobody down there. Nobody had broken in. Everything was sealed shut. He was so freaked out, he moved me immediately the next day up to my youngest brother's room, had him stay with my other brother while they moved my bedroom upstairs, because my dad was like, I only woke up thinking something was wrong. He didn't hear the music until he opened the basement door, and he was like, if somebody actually broke in, we wouldn't hear what was going on. So I told you that story to tell you this story. So they moved me up. It's maybe 2 nights later. I am sleeping on my brother's bed, looking down. He was at the end of the hallway from the top stairs on the 3rd floor. And it was a direct line of sight to my parents' bedroom. And I was so freaked out about what had happened, I was sleeping with the door open so I could see to their bedroom and feel like, I was kind of safe enough to get to them if I needed them. I woke up in the middle of the night to a slamming sound coming from the basement. And it sounded like doors were slamming somewhere in the house. Then I heard what sounded like running heavy footsteps up the basement stairs. It sounded like the basement door was kicked open and that someone had run around on the hardwood floors to the base of the other stairs and had run up those stairs and then stopped. Now, I was not staring down the hallway when I heard this. I was kind of like looking around, and then I looked at the base of the stairs, and I'm going to show you what I saw. Okay, so imagine that this is the top flight of the stair. So there's a whole wall coming this way and the railing for the stairs. I literally saw something like coming up this way with its hands, and it was like a black shape just looking at me down the hallway like this through the bars. I took in a big, deep breath, and I think I called for my mom, and this thing shot off like a light up the stairs. So it takes off up the stairs and like on all fours starts zooming this dark shadow thing towards my brother's door, and the door I could almost touch from the bed, so I just shot out of bed and slammed the door shut, and I mean, I screamed bloody murder. I woke up the whole house. Nothing hit the door. Nothing else happened, but of course my dad took off out of bed and ran towards my brother's room. I was like, what the hell is going on? None of the doors were open. The basement door was locked. No one had broken in. And I, after that point, until we got me moved into my other room, slept with that door shut. There are so many things that happened in that house. Like, I, for a long time, could not sleep with a mirror in the same room as me because of things I saw. There was an entity that several people saw that my family didn't talk about for a very long time until we kind of, once we had the medium in, people kind of figured out something weird was going on with our house. But I have tons of stories. And I actually, if that story sounds familiar, I shared it on last podcast on the left several years ago. And I remember seeing a bunch of comments of people saying like, there's no way that's true. People lie about this stuff all the time. I am telling you, on my life, my child's life, my family's lives, this shit happened. And it happened so often. Like, my mom would leave the house and call somebody from the front porch and say, I'm scared to be here alone. Everybody had something happen. Everybody. Like, it just was, it was a very active house. I could tell stories for hours.
Hi, so something really weird happened to me a number of years ago. And I haven't talked much about it outside of my family just because it's one of those things that happened and I honestly couldn't believe that it did. And if other people had not been there with me, I still don't know if I would believe that it happened. But it's a long story, so buckle up. So if you know anything about me and my mom's side of the family, you know that my mom's side of the family has experienced a lot of death, a lot of tragedy. Both of my mom's brothers died at the age of 38. Very kind of unexpectedly, they became sick. My grandparents both died in their 50s, long history of sickness and illness. And so our family cemetery grew very fast because of this. So this was probably around 2013, 2014. My mom and her two surviving sisters decided to get together. It had been a number of years since we had all been together and gone to the cemetery and done like a floral arrangement for their brothers that had passed away and also their parents. I hadn't seen my cousins in a long time and I really wanted to spend some time with them, so I decided we could make like a family outing and I decided to tag along. Something really important to note about this story, though, is there is no cell phone service at this cemetery. It is the middle of absolute nowhere. There's nothing to walk to except a creepy old church and nothing but miles and miles of farmland. And it's always been this way. It's been this way as long as I can remember. There's no cell phone service, and this is important for later in the story. So I'm sitting in the back of my aunt's Toyota, and we're driving down the road, and my cousin, who is around my age, pulls out her camera that she had just gotten as a gift, and she's like, oh, this is so cool, check it out. And this was, a long time ago, so a digital camera was a big deal. So we're sitting there playing with it. The battery is full, and we're just taking goofy photos, whatever. And so as we get to the cemetery, she goes to take out her camera again as we approach some of the graves because we wanted some photos of our parents out there, and it won't turn on. And we both have this moment, we're looking at each other like, why won't it turn on? So we pull the batteries out, we're fiddling with it, and it will not work. It just says no battery, no battery. Like, okay, so whatever, we put that away. A little bit into the trip, one of my oldest cousin, well, she's not really my oldest, but the oldest cousin present on this trip, is complaining she cannot find her cell phone anywhere. And the last person who had it would have been her son, who was probably around 7 or 8 years old at the time. And he's telling us, I don't know where the phone is. I don't know where the phone is. And there's no cell phone service, so nobody can call it and figure out where it is, right? So there's a fence that separates where you park your car and where the cemetery begins. Our family plots are right on the fence line, or at least very close to it. We're all inside this fence. Nobody has been outside of this fence. And I know this because I'm always the observer. I'm always watching people and seeing what they're doing. While my mom and her sisters are over there fiddling with flower arrangements, my cousin and I are kind of sitting on the gravestone, and I'm watching my cousins to see what they're doing. Nobody walks outside of that fence. I'm telling you, there's no way. No one can find this phone. And all of a sudden, my mom's oldest sister, her phone starts making the weirdest noise. It was the weirdest beeping sound. It was not a sound that was programmed into the phone. It was not a downloaded sound. I don't know how to describe it other than it just wasn't her ringtone. She honestly didn't even know it was her phone at first because of how weird the sound was. When she held up her phone, there was 2 really alarming things that I noticed. First, the phone should not have been ringing. Even though it was showing that someone was calling, there was no service in the corner. Didn't make any sense. The second thing that surprised us all is we're standing in a circle watching this phone ring. There's no one else out there. And the phone that is calling hers is the phone that is missing. And this is the first point in the trip I start to feel really uneasy. Like, I'm trying to leave at this point. I'm like, Mom, like, I don't feel good about being here. Like, I really just want to go. But nobody else seems to be listening to me. Even though I'm like dying to get out of here. I know something is wrong. And in the midst of them not listening to me, what does my aunt do? She answers the phone. It's not a person on the other end of it. It is like this crackling sound, like someone like popping some like rocks or rolling rocks with their hand. And my mom and her sisters start crying, and they're saying like, "This is our dad calling us. This is our dad." And I'm looking around and I'm like, is nobody else scared? At this point, I'm ready to walk out of this place and just leave. Like, I literally head to the car. And as I'm walking out of this car, there's like this little covered pavilion that's like kind of by the entrance of the cemetery on the other side of the fence where the cars are parked. And sitting on that pavilion is my cousin's phone, face down, locked. Nobody was out there to have called from that phone to my aunt's number. When my cousin unlocks that phone, there is no record of a phone call. There's nothing on it. It says no service. No phone call has been made. How is that possible? I don't know. I literally bolted to the car. I said, I'm done with this. I'm so done. I'm out of here. I would not be sitting here crying saying it's my dad because I just didn't feel good about it. Maybe I was just easily spooked. I don't know, but I'm leaving. Deuces. I climb back in my aunt's Camry, and we're driving down the road leaving at this point. They've had their waterworks show. I'm pretty shook. Like, I'm not feeling too good. And my cousin's over there still fiddling with her camera. As we get down the road, she's like, I still don't understand why this camera doesn't work. She goes to turn it on, and it says full battery. I've always been a pretty anxious person, and I've also been told I'm a pretty big overreactor. But I don't know. In that situation, what would you guys do?
Okay, I'm sorry. Work has been crazy. I will tell you guys my scary ghost story now. I tried to record this. It got way too long, so I'm gonna try. Okay, I grew up in Washington. My other set of parents, my father and stepmom, live outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. So I would go stay with them like once or twice a year, let's say. This particular time, they had just moved to a new house, and I was very excited because their last house was a dark place. Scary. I have stories about that house that I will not share here, but let's just say that I was super relieved that they were not there anymore. I was excited. So picture it, summer, 17, I'm going to stay with my other family. I'm like, oh, creepy things won't happen anymore, that's great. Little did I know. Okay, quick layout. Bottom floor, all the living area, set of stairs, very small landing, and all the bedrooms are clustered around this landing. On this particular night, everyone goes to bed before me, let's say at like 10. Parents in one room with my baby brother, my other little brother who's like 12 at the time in the other room, and then the nursery, which is where I'm sleeping. Okay, so it's like midnight, I'm awake, I'm 17, I'm reading a book. I had just gone to the bathroom, so I knew for a fact everyone was upstairs because they all sleep with their doors open. The landing is super small, so I saw all of them a moment ago. They were all fully asleep in their beds. So So I'm minding my own business, reading, and from the bottom of the stairs, I hear something. And it's footsteps on the stairs. And it sounded like a little kid almost, like, you know how little kids just like kind of barrel up and down the stairs, like do 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 do. Yeah. Stops at the top of the stairs. I'm like, what the is this? I hear it go back down. Do 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 do. This continues to happen. I hear it multiple times. Do 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 do. My grandma was very spooky and kooky, and she always told me if anything paranormal happened to ignore it, because if you pay attention, you'll like feed into the energy and it will get more aggressive and stronger or something. So this is in my head, and I'm like, I'm ignoring this. Nothing's happening. Everything's fine. And again, stuff had happened at their last house, and I was just like, not again. So I'm ignoring it because it's gonna stop, right? At this point, I have like a headphone in, volume very low, pretending I'm not listening to the running up and down the stairs. I hear it come back up. Do, 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 do. It stops. It stops for a few minutes. I'm like, okay, maybe it's done. Let's say 5 minutes passed after this thing had stopped at the top of the stairs. Again, the landing is small, so let's say hypothetically, wherever this thing stopped is like 3 feet from my closed door. After a few minutes, I'm sure everything is all good. I kind of relax, and I'm still reading my book, and then suddenly, it was like a full-grown man, like a 6 foot tall man, took both of his fists and slammed it way harder than that. Slammed it against the door of the room I was sleeping in. The door shook. I jump up. If there's fight and flight, there's also freeze, and I fucking froze. I was so scared. But again, my grandma's wisdom, I'm like, I have to ignore it. Nothing happened. 2 minutes later, again, harder. And the vibe was genuinely like, don't ignore me. That was like the vibe I got from the second slam. A couple minutes go by, I haven't moved. But I'm like, what do I do? I decide to take action. I take my blanket, wrap it around my body for protection. Flip on my bedroom light. I swing open the door to meet my fate. The landing is empty. Everyone is sleeping, obviously. I flip on the hallway light, flip off my light. Flip on my brother's light, flip off the hallway light. Close his door, shake him half awake, and I'm like, scoot over, I'm sleeping in here. I'm 17, he's 12. We haven't shared a bed in several years, but that's how scared I was. It is summer in Nevada, and I literally have the covers over my face like this, and I'm like breathing in my own carbon dioxide, but I was like, I have to have the covers over my face. After like 15 minutes, on his door, again, softer, but kind of like a, I know you're still in there. I was like, thank God I'm going home tomorrow. Anyway, this started happening to them after I left. This would happen on my brother's door, the slamming. From downstairs, they would also start hearing like muffled arguments at the landing, like voices fighting. Anyway, they moved out of that house as quickly as possible because it was super scary. I don't know if this was like an actual ghost. I don't know if this was like residual energy from like a bad DV type of thing going on in that house previously, but I did not like it. And yeah, that's it. Sorry this was super long.